So in order to really discover what we love, perhaps we have to explore what is love? What is love? What is it really? It's summertime here now in Santa Cruz, and everywhere it's summertime, but here it's pretty much an ongoing summertime. And what can often happen in the month of July, especially in, well, June and August, is that the hormones are flying, have kicked in, and there's a lot of physical, let's say, occupation with getting into bathing suits and how do I look. So there can be a big focus on appearance, and often attraction happens on the level of the physical form, and this can often be mistaken as love. Well, it is a level, a form of love. It's a physical love. But what we want to explore today is much deeper than that. We are going to evolve beyond what you might even refer to as a teenage level of love and attraction, that which comes and goes. You can fall into an experience, have a great time, and it's over. But what is that which is long lasting? What is that which ignites your life? What is that which is the foundation of all passion, of all movement, of all engagement? And it's really essential that we are in touch with this, because if not, we will fall out of our passion. We'll fall out of our natural energy to be engaged with life without a preference, without a need, say, for it to be a particular way, without, or in a way that doesn't necessarily need to be reciprocated. So before I say anything more about that, I'll talk about it again later. Let's go into a direct experience. Let's go into a meditation. And the form of the meditation that I'm going to do today is similar to how I always guide a meditation, where we welcome everything to be here, set aside all distractions. In fact, that reminds me to, now that I have the message, to put my phone in airplane mode. It's really busy around here, just so nothing comes in to distract us. So set aside all distractions and let this be a time for you, a time of deep exploration. So we'll go into inviting everything to be here, utilizing the breath, but then we're going to use a method of inquiry to explore what is love. So go ahead and let yourself be comfortable in whatever way that works for you. If you're sitting in a chair, let your spine relax against the back side of the chair. Feel your bottom in the chair and your feet on the ground. Let the base of your body be weighted, in a sense that you're anchored through the base of the body, whether you be sitting in lotus, half lotus, or crisscross, whatever that is, and let the base of the body be anchored, weighted. So we're coming down and in to the body. And you can use your breath. Invite your breath, breathing in through the nose, fully into the body, expanding at the rib cage, softening the intercostal muscles between the ribs, giving full space for your physical heart to be here. Now, every time that you breathe in, let your eyes close as well. And it's almost as if you're telling yourself, or you're inviting yourself, to be just here with you as you are, without engaging to change anything. So as the breath continues to move in the body, invite it to come into the belly. Softly, deeply, fully. So you can feel it so much that it goes down to the hip carriage, the base. Now, for a moment, let's give our attention to the back side of the heart, where there can often be some congestion, some holding. That's all right. Whatever you notice in yourself, it's all right. So, giving full permission for any old memories about love, which often we think about love only happening in romantic relationships between a man and a woman, or a man and a man, a woman and a woman. And those memories may be here, times of disappointment, times of perhaps regret or guilt. Let all that be here. It really can, just in the allowing it to be here, in a sense, it gives it an opportunity to transmute through your allowance. So again, let the breath be very wide and full around the physical heart, in the front at the chest, lifting the rib cage, lifting the breastbone, filling out at the sides, and being very wide in the back side of the heart. Now let your breath be like a very soothing balm, almost as if the breath could massage these inner, let's call them chambers for now, these inner chambers of the heart, within it and around it, where there may be memory, where there may be debris, there may be fear, there may be protection, holding, shrinking back, or there may be just little pockets of energy that feels constricted or tight. Or there may be spaces that feel very open and fluid. Maybe, in fact, that's all that you notice, that you've been so true to your heart. You haven't carried past experience. You've allowed it to flush out so it doesn't need to be repeated. And also notice that memories of however we imagine love to be, whatever it is that we've been conditioned to believe about love, about relating, where it comes from, how you need to be in order to receive it. Just being a wide space of noticing and looking and seeing What emotional content might still be here around the territory of the heart that may also be connected to anything happening in the belly, in the throat, in thought patterns that may circulate around the mind. So, here, this first level of inquiry as far as what is love, it's almost in a way we're looking to see what our experience, what our conditioning may have told us, may have taught us about what love is. And it's really important to give time and to give space for this kind of exploration so that you can feel how you're hooked up, how you're kind of wired. Some of us only know attraction. Like that if we're attracted to somebody or something, that means we're in love. And if that attraction isn't reciprocated, it means we're not lovable, that we're being rejected or something like that. And that's a very kind of early phase. It's physical attraction is one thing. Having chemistry, having hormones engaged. See how so much of this has to do with conditioning, also around gender, around physicality, around what it means to be a woman, how you should appear in your body, what kind of body, and a man, what should he appear like. So all of this is very surface based on appearance, and it comes from our conditioning around gender and our experience as to what we've witnessed in our own development through our families, our communities, our churches, our movie stars, TV, television, all of that. And notice that in this entire realm of physical love, human attraction, which is a nice thing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That often what isn't provided within it, especially if it's learned through, our conditioning or by viewing the media, TV and movies and those kinds of things, that there isn't built in an opportunity to process what we've experienced, to process it and to learn from it, and to go deeper than that experience. And this is what we're doing today. And I'm sure many of you that are viewing this have gone deeper. I'm just kind of laying out the surface. I'm not really saying anything about anybody. I'm just saying that there's a gravitational pull, in a sense, to this kind of surface physical love, which is very much based upon the identity of being a body, the limitation of the definition of you as a body. So just see that, because if we're identified as a body, the chances of going beyond this physical realm will be challenging. However, by failing and having relating in this way not work out, by having it fail over and over again in the sense that it's unsatisfying, opens the door to a deeper question. And this deeper question is the one that we ask now. What is love then, really? So let's all pause here together, noting that in all of the speaking that I did, I may have stirred up all kinds of things, memories and experiences. If that's happening for you, it's all right. Let that float in your presence. Let your breath continue to be deep and very stilling. Let everything come now to a pause. Let yourself recede as this wide, wide space of presence. Just noticing and allowing whatever's been stirred up in you. And maybe it's very light, very subtle, to something that feels really strong because you connect to what I've been saying. All of us can relate to this at one time or another, perhaps even just yesterday. And that's fine, because we need to understand that there's a gravitational pull toward identifying with yourself as a physical form, as being limited by your physicality, by your gender, by the way you've been conditioned, by past experience. So let's, for a moment, let's all of us just fail at that. It didn't work. Just let it all go. I mean, I can only invite you, it's up to you to choose to be done and to let yourself drop here into the question, what is love? Where does it live inside of me? Mm. Mm. So if you go behind the mask, behind the persona of you, if you go through behind any armoring, any protection, if you go beneath all experience, all the comings and goings, and however they may have formed your character, without pushing anything away, but just keep dropping into you. So everything is allowed, and at the same time, you're not letting yourself get stuck on the surface. Let it come and let it go. What has it served? A way of behaving will only repeat itself if it's serving something. So let yourself get clear on that. What is it serving? To engage, to seek love, acknowledgement, approval, as an identity. What does it serve? What did it serve? And is it serving anything now? Hmm. So notice as you continue to allow this question, it's a very profound inquiry to want to know the truth about love. Where does it live? It's almost as if, of course, without any judgment of any old behaviors, all of that has to dissolve. It's not helpful. There's a lightness. You start to enter more into the lightness of your being. It's very, very light. And there may be some experiences in your life that touch this lighter aspect of you. Touch it, but do not create it. So feel as you let yourself fall into yourself. And notice that there may at times be some censoring or some narrative running its course in the mind. Just kiss it, love it. Let it be all right. Don't push it away. Engage the kindness of you that is so natural. And notice that each time you offer yourself kindness, that this lightness of being becomes more pronounced. And you can experience within yourself a beauty, a delightfulness that cannot be equated with anything of this world, with anything of form. Let yourself drop here more, and you start to feel yourself less and less as a body, more and more as a being of light that not only ignites your heart and softens any old wounding, any scars, washes, rinses away fears and doubts. Is all inclusive of every aspect of you. It's not exclusive at all. It doesn't limit itself to any particular experience, behavior, or way of relating. It's all inclusive. It's undivided. It doesn't know how to separate anything from itself. It's wholly conscious of this and all the comings and goings, and can be the space without any judgment whatsoever, without any opposition. It's unconflicted. It naturally resolves conflict on the inner realm first. And as these inner conflicts are resolved, then this, the light of being, the love of you, of all of you, love itself, the word demand is a very strong word, but I'm going to say it demands to be lived in its expression. It naturally wants to express the fullness of itself and resolve any external conflict just by being itself, by being light, not demanding in the way that it requires something in return, because it doesn't. It's already full. Now you could say that this is consciousness itself, undivided, whole, your essential nature, your beingness. So the necessity to fall in true love, to be truly in love, is to fall out of the identity of you as a separate, limited, physical individual. So this is awakening to love. So feel how full this is already in you, the fullness of you. So there's this fullness of being. And let's just hang here together with this, because you can see and feel as you just sit here with yourself, as yourself, that all of that we brought forward in the beginning in the form of memory and experience dissipates. It's like it never happened. You become timeless, so untouched by the past, without an agenda for the future. This doesn't mean that something from the past may not enter into your life experience to be resolved fully. But if it's met here, the resolve will be quite natural. It doesn't need to become a drama. So feel, know deeply the difference between seeking love as an identity and everything that is involved with that. Whoa, I don't want to stir it all up again. But to know the difference directly, fully in yourself, and this fullness of you, when you allow yourself to fall deeply into this here, beneath any armoring, beneath any fears, any stories, any conditions, to the lightness of you, the lightness of being, just being this that asks for nothing, yet gives everything. It's more than a sensation. It's more than an experience. It's here continuously. So, from the lightness of being, which I'm referring to as love, now when we ask the question, what do I love? It almost sounds silly because from here, when you look through the eyes of love, later here when we open our eyes, and you walk around this physical plane and you look through the eyes that are interwoven with the lightness of your being. You look and gaze out from here. What do you love? I guess it would be easier to say what don't. Nothing can be negated then. All of life is welcome. Life then is a movement of love. Call it consciousness or love returning home to itself. Know this. You can only know this directly. And this is a sure practice for not getting caught up in the dramas of being an identity, being identified with the body, and the suffering that ensues from there. So from here, from the lightness of being, all wounding can be soothed, and you can listen clearly to the movement of your soul and how it wants to engage in life. Because actually, what you're doing is then giving permission, full permission, for love to live you. Not to be lived by the shallow dictates of physical form, of conditioning, of memory, of gender, of what things are supposed to look like, how he or she are supposed to behave. All of that just becomes very insignificant. And then life has very deep meaning, precious. And the simplest things have meaning, have more meaning than even the grandest. Love is simple. It's natural, the most natural thing for each and every one of us. Enjoy this often, always. You could continue along with your eyes open or closed. The silence is really strong here today. It's a potent meditation, so maybe you'll return back to it at another time. But I wanted to say a few more things for those of you who like to have information. And I think what I'll do is I'll just tell a little story that may point at some of these things that I would love to cover. And that story is I grew up in a very large Catholic Irish family. And I remember my oldest sister, she was very beautiful. She was the homecoming queen, and she always had all kinds of suitors, so to speak. And was a very beautiful woman, young woman. And of course, she had all these marriage proposals coming to her. And she was dating this one man and then began to date his cousin. And he asked her, and she's the one that she decided she would marry. And I remember she was just out of high school and I was just in junior high. And my parents were not a very good example for what a relationship might look like. And it was really very difficult. It was a very difficult environment to grow up in. And I was this very sensitive kind of person. And I remember when my sister told me she was getting married that I cried. And I said, "Oh, you got to be kidding me. How could you do that?" And I really thought that marriage and committing yourself to a relationship was like committing yourself to suffering, that to a war, to combat. I couldn't imagine it being anything different than that at the time. And of course, they're still married till this day. They have a very beautiful relationship, so it's not at all um, what I had imagined it to be. And then, of course, there's the full range. And then I tell that story because most of us really identify with love as to be how you are in a romantic relationship, how a man and a woman are together, or a woman and a woman, man and a man, and that experience of romantic physical love. And we equate, we actually overlook, override, or maybe even never come into contact with this deeper aspect of love, which we can only come into contact through awakening by waking up out of this idea of being this identification with physical form and with all the different ways in which we relate through our physicality, through experience. And what I want to say too about that is awakening doesn't necessarily like to become enlightened or to awaken to the light of your being, to the truth of who you are at your formless essence. It doesn't mean that it's going to solve all of your relationships or how you are in relationship. And this is a very important thing to understand because many people will get tripped up in their relating and think, well, I couldn't be awake. It doesn't mean that an awakening didn't happen on one level or another just because the relating isn't working out. It might mean that you need a good counselor because awakening doesn't solve everything. What we have to remember is that we bring with us all kinds of conditioning and all kinds of experience, not just from this lifetime, but from prior lifetimes. And all of that will influence how we are. So awakening, in a sense, is this light of being. It's coming into the direct experience of your beingness. And then there's becoming. So it's almost as if awakening can be like in a moment, it feels like we've gone from A to Z, A being this limitation with physical form, like, solidly identified with this form as, in this experience here, as all there is. And the confines of the mind, the dictates of the mind, all the mental and emotional content, and really stuck in the drama of that. And then going to Z, where is this open beingness? Like maybe it happens to you in meditation, but you don't know what happens to it after you open your eyes. I mean, it hasn't gone anywhere. That's where practice comes in. But the lightness of being that you are, consciousness is always here. But consciousness, beingness, then needs to penetrate into all of the aspects of who we are. You could call that our becoming. Some people call it embodiment. But it's that, okay, so awakening is here. Like that is, there's this deep knowing of what I am. And there's also with it comes this knowing, like it's an instinct then that has to be lived. It's deeper than an instinct. It has to live itself. But what it needs to do, it's like it flowers, it blossoms. It's almost as if It's a fire inside of you that then enters into every aspect of your life. It's resolving, it's clarifying, it's cleaning, it's making everything that still might be asleep, it's waking it up. So experiences that have been suppressed come to the surface. It's very much like Christ said, there will be no stone that is left unturned. So it doesn't all wake up at once. For some people, there's a few rare individuals that have an awakening and it just penetrates into every aspect of their life all at once and everything is resolved. But for most of us, it's a journey, it's a continuous journey of becoming, of allowing this to live us intimately, fully in every aspect of who we are, with family, with work, with relating. So but we have to begin here. We have to be fully intimate with who we are, so close, that this lightness of being cannot be mistaken. There's absolutely no doubt that this is what I am. It's so clear. And then in that clarity, it will demand to be lived, and if you deny its expression, suffering will ensue. It's like a postponement. It's like to enter into a holding pattern. It feels false. It feels like, you've put the lid back over, or the veil. You've covered yourself again with a veil. And once you've awakened, it's impossible. It's like you become so sensitive within yourself that you can't close off again. It will hurt. It will hurt to close off, to pretend to be separate. It becomes an impossibility. You might get away with it for a little while and in certain arenas. And of course, if you allow yourself to be pulled into the gravitational pull of sleep, of unconsciousness, and you surround yourself with a lot of unconscious people and behaviors, then you might be able to get away with it for a little bit longer. But it won't feel good. It won't feel natural. It won't feel right. It'll feel awful. So what happens is that's why we have retreats. You retreat back into yourself. And when we get really clear with the deepest felt sense of who we are, and we ask that question that penetrates the layers of confusion, of mistaken identity, it will penetrate those layers. And through a deep listening, you can follow how it lives you, how it wants to be lived, how it can live in alignment with the deepest truth of you, in love, And we can tell when we're kind of going off course, when we're misidentifying, because we'll start to old behaviors will kind of come into play, drama. And we'll start to have an expectation that if I behave this way, I shall get this. And you do this, it means this is forthcoming. But true love doesn't ask for anything in return. It really, its expression is its gift. It's the giving of it and the receiving of it are the very same thing. I remember speaking with a woman that long ago who was really maturing and developing quite a bit quickly in her evolution. And we were speaking about sexual expression, intimacy, physical intimacy. And even, in our conditioning as gender, there's this old mythology. It's a myth, really, that the man behaves a particular way and the woman behaves a particular way, and there's this physical kind of encounter, and where there's a way of performing, and the man gives the woman something, and she's the passive one or whatever. I mean, I can't even relate to it. So you may do much better than me in what that whole old story looks like. But to get to what we were speaking about is that in true physical intimacy, also there isn't a there's a reciprocity that isn't even noticeable. There's like when you're so intimate with the light of your being, with who you are as love already, doesn't need anything, that in the exchange of physical intimacy, where there isn't any holding back, in that as well, there's right in the giving is the receiving on both sides. So it's a union. It's a expression of a union that already is. I don't know if that makes any sense, but this is a really deep, deep exploration, and maybe we can go into it more in the conversation. But the other thing that I wanted to say, though, just in relationship to this, and kind of I got started on it and I got sidetracked with my family. There was a lot of alcohol in my family, and I know that that's the case for many people in their families. And so there's a lot of confusion or conflict in relating. And so what I did at one point, I don't know that I was ever an alcoholic. I certainly went through my phase. I mean, I guess if you're an alcoholic, they say you always are. I know I'm very sensitive to alcohol, and I haven't used it in many, many, many years. But I remember at one time wanting to understand it, wanting to understand this whole, what people refer to as an illness, an addiction. So I went to AA meetings, some very good ones in Palo Alto, where I was living at the time and operating a pretty big business. I went to an AA meeting every day because I really wanted to understand, what this was all about. And I remember there's many things I took away from those meetings. I think the 12-step program is a powerful program. It's a great spiritual practice. And the one that I heard often is half measures availed us not. Half measures availed us not. What a potent teaching that is, and how it relates to this, because you can't go halfway with your realization. It's like once awakening happens, once you have failed in your, you know, beholden identity of who you think you are as an ego, that egoic identity just fails. It just collapses, and you wake up to the truth of who you are. Half measures avail us not. It's like, it's that deep knowing of what you are. It's like, then you have to become it. Anything, there's no halfway in it. It's not oh yeah, I'll let myself be awake in this area of my life. But, this one, we can let it be a little sleepy. We can let there be some confusion, some ambiguity, some incongruencies. We can let it be a little bit mucky over there. Not the case. It's like half measures avail us not. It's because then you just suffer. So it's like when awakening happens, it's like that's why you got to be careful what you ask for. If you want to awaken, you really want liberation, you got to go all the way. You can't go halfway. You can't go a quarter of the way. You can't go 75%. You can't even go 99%. You got to give yourself 100% to truth at all times and all places. And you have to give yourself 100% to kindness, to gentleness with our humanity, because we will mess up. Humanness is humanness, and it will forever be humanness. And there is the gravitational pull constantly. There's unconsciousness around us. So we have to give consciousness a chance. We have to give love a chance to show itself in all directions, to let it blossom, to let it live us fully. And then, well, there was one other part I wanted to say, and I can't find it in my notes. I did a bunch of chicken scratch here before we got started because I really do love this topic. Um, well, I guess the other piece, and I covered this in the meditation, is not to ignore, to really give credence to the information in your body, because the body is a barometer for truth, always. So it's like, how do you know something is true? I mean, you can begin to start because my body is telling me so. Get into your body, listen and feel into what's happening in the body, clarify and allow, and you'll be surprised what comes out of that. And that's why, and that's that other expression too is an important one, to be in the world and not of the world. And just to take that in this context, what that means is to, yeah, still be in the body, be fully here in the body, but not of the body. So that means to acknowledge fully this human form, but it doesn't mean that everything that all the experience, all the memory, everything that comes and goes in this body is you. But it can continue to happen. So to be in it, but not of it. To be in this world and all of its manifestation, but not to be of it. You're not it. You're not it. You're so much more.